Good morning, everyone. In this video, we'll discuss about prediction of genes from genomes. In the previous classes, we discussed about different ways of analyzing the genomic DNA sequences, like by pairwise alignment of sequences, multiple alignment of sequences, then sequence similarity search methods we discussed, and also we discussed about restriction mapping. These are all the various ways by which the sequences from the genomes are analyzed in order to predict the functions of the genes, and in order to predict the biological meaning of the sequences that are coming out of genome sequencing projects. So the today's topic is prediction of genes from the genomes, meaning in the given DNA or nucleotide sequence, if there are the sequences that encode genes, if there are sequences that encode either proteins, or in some cases the genes are expressed only at RNA level, like your tRNA genes and rRNA genes. Basically, these prediction methods of genes from genomes will identify the gene sequences from the given DNA or nucleotide sequence. These gene prediction methods are useful in annotating the genomic DNA sequences. What is this annotation? Annotation is obtaining useful information, that is the structure and function of genes from the raw sequence data. Meaning, as I mentioned earlier, because of the availability of this automated DNA sequencing methods, there is lots of genomic sequence information that is getting accumulated. But in the same pace, we are not able to annotate the information. Annotate in the sense, identifying the functionality of these sequences, or identifying the structure of these DNA sequences. So there are several methods by which you would be able to predict the structural and functional annotation of these genomic DNA sequences. And again, annotating these genomic DNA sequences, the methods or the difficulty levels are different in case of prokaryotes and eukaryotes. If you take prokaryotes, comparatively, the complexity of the genome is simpler. Why? Because the gene density is high in case of prokaryotes. Not only that, most of the genes, they do not contain introns. That is why the annotation, whether it is structural or functional annotation, in case of prokaryotic genomes is simpler. But when you come to the eukaryotic genomes, as the complexity of the organism increases, the genome complexity also increases. Like, in case of eukaryotic genomes, the gene density falls, and many genes of the eukaryotes, they contain introns. The introns number can be from 1 to 50 introns can be present. So when there are interrupting regions like introns present, again the annotation becomes difficult. Assigning the function or assigning the structure for these genomic sequences, it becomes difficult. So these are the difficulties or the differences between prokaryotic genome annotation and eukaryotic genome annotation. And then identifying that particular given DNA sequence, whether it is a gene or not, is also one of the annotation. So now let's move on to the objective of this, topic, gene prediction algorithms. What are the programs available that will help us in identifying the genes or in predicting the genes in the given DNA or nucleotide sequences? In order to identify the genes which are present in these genome sequences, you should be able to identify the genes from the surrounding DNA, for which you need to know what are the characteristic features of genes in comparison with other surrounding genomic DNA sequences. So in that context, there are 3 different algorithms that are developed for predicting the genes from genomes. What are these 3 different prediction algorithms available? Signal sensors, content sensors, and homology searches. These signal sensors, as the name suggests, it tries in identifying the signals which are characteristic of genes or gene sequences. What are these signals? We will move on to the next slide and then see how these signal sensors work and what are these signals which are the characteristic, which is one of the characteristic feature of the gene sequences. Signal sensors. What are the signal sensors and how do they work? As I mentioned earlier, any gene prediction algorithm, it should be able to identify the characteristic features of the genes in the sequences so that it would be able to identify the given DNA sequence is a gene sequence or not. These signals are discrete local sequence motifs like promoters, splice donor sites, splice acceptor sites, start, stop codon, polyadenylation site. So these are all the different features that would be definitely present in a particular gene sequence. So you look for the presence of these local sequence motifs. It could be promoter, splice donor, acceptor, start, stop codon, and polyadenylation site. These motifs, whichever are mentioned here, they tend to have consensus sequences, like, similar sequences, constant sequences would be present, and algorithms can be developed which can search for the presence of these motifs. In the given DNA or nucleotide sequence, if these algorithms called signal sensors, if they are able to identify such motifs that have got consensus sequences, which could be probably promoter, splice donor, acceptor site, and the combination of all these, then the given DNA sequence can be predicted as a gene sequence. I hope you are able to follow. Now, let's move on to the next algorithm, content sensors. These content sensors, as the name says, they will be finding the contents in the given DNA sequence. What are these contents? These contents are extended sequences of variable length. These are extended sequences of variable length. The most important content of a gene could be the coding region. These contents, as we have seen in case of motifs, are the signals which we discussed in the previous algorithm. These contents, they do not have consensus sequence, but they do have conserved features. These conserved features distinguish them from the surrounding DNA. What are these conserved features? That could be nucleotide frequencies and nucleotide dependencies. What is this nucleotide dependency? That is the likelihood of two particular nucleotides occurring at particular positions at the same time. This nucleotide frequencies and nucleotide dependencies, they differ between exons and introns. So that is how you would be able to identify these contents, which is again a characteristic feature of the gene. If this content is found to be present in the given DNA sequence, you can predict that that sequence could be a gene. Coming to the homology searches. What are these homology searches? These are the matches to the known genes. You want to identify in the given DNA sequence if any gene sequence is available or not. So what you could do is you can carry out homology search against the database of sequences. If it finds a match with a sequence which is already a known gene, that could indicate that the given DNA sequence could be a gene. Many programs, they incorporate database homology searching as part of the gene finding algorithm. Though these algorithms are different, whether it is signal sensor, content sensor, or homology search, these days many of the effective gene finding programs, they include combination of all these three algorithms that include signal, content sensing, as well as homology searching in order to produce an integrated gene finding package. An integrated gene finding package would be produced if you combine the features of all these three different algorithms. Next, one more method of identifying genes from genomes is detection of ORFs. What are these ORFs? All of you are aware of ORFs, these are nothing but open reading frames. And what are these open reading frames? This is nothing but a long series of sense codons that are bracketed by a start codon and a stop codon, meaning it should start with start codon and it should go for a long run of coding. It should run for a long series of coding codons or amino acid coding codons, and then it should end with the stop codon. That is called open reading frame. One way to detect these genes is to carry out 6-frame translation of the genome sequence and then identify the long ORFs. What is the method to identify these ORFs which are present in the genome sequences? That is to carry out 6-frame translation of the genome sequence. What is the 6-frame translation of the genome sequence? In the given DNA sequence, if you take, there will be 3 forward reading frames and 3 backward reading frames, because you all know that triplet codon is a series of 3 nucleotides. So you start from the first base, that will be reading frame 1. You start from the second base, that will be reading frame 2. And you start from the third base, that is the reading frame 3. In the reverse direction, because you all know DNA is a double helical structure, it has got 2 anti-parallel strands. The other direction, if you read it in 5' to 3' direction, another 3 reading frames will be resulted in the backward direction. So that's how for any given DNA sequence, 6 reading frames are formulated, and in all these 6 reading frames you can find the presence of these long ORFs. Why is it mentioned as long ORFs? If it is a short ORF, there is possibility that that could have occurred by chance. It may not be a gene. But the chances are, the false positive chances are very less in case of long ORFs. So this identification of ORFs in order to find or in order to predict the genes, that method detects most of the genes, though there are certain shortcomings, like, since we look for the presence of long ORFs to avoid false positives, if there are any short genes present, the identification of these short genes may be overlooked, one thing. And during this ORF identification, generally it uses the standard genetic code. What is the standard genetic code? You all know, as per the standard genetic code, the initiation codon is the ATG. So if there are any variations of the standard genetic code, in that case also there is possibility for the misinterpretation of the genes. And in case of overlapping genes also, we require more sophisticated. I'm sorry, there was one small interruption. So this is how the detection of ORFs will help us in identifying the genes from the genomes. I hope you guys are able to follow. So far what we discussed are different methods of predicting genes from genomes. These methods will look for the presence of characteristic features of the genes, like signals, which are the local motifs of promoters, splice donuts, sites, acceptor sites, start codon, stop codon, polyadenylation site. Likewise, signals are identified, and in case of content sensors, the contents are identified, which are the contents of variable length or coding sequences of variable length. We also discussed about homology search. Then another method is the detection of ORFs, in which we will look for the presence of this long ORFs, which could be probably a gene. This detects most of the genes, but there are certain shortcomings, because of which short genes and the genes which use variations of genetic code and overlapping genes are ignored. Next method is detecting the exons and introns. As you all know, the eukaryotic genes are interrupted by introns. The eukaryotic genes contains exons, which are the coding sequences. They also contain introns, which are the non-coding sequences. These exons are too short to identify just by ORF searching alone. So that is why we can also look for the features of introns so that we can combine the features of exons and introns, and then we can try to come up with whole gene model. So the combined approach involving exon detection by content sensing, which is the variable length of coding sequence that is identified, then the identification of splice signals and branch sites of introns, and incorporation of other information, supplementary information like cDNA sequence, all these are incorporated, and then it is built into a whole gene model that could be used to predict the genes from the genome. So especially in case of eukaryotic genes, you should be able to identify exon features as well as intron features so that it can be built into a whole gene model in order to identify or predict the genes from genomes. All these methods, whatever we discussed so far, they're all applicable in case of genes that encode proteins. But as you all know, there are many genes, they are expressed just at the level of transcription. That means they are just expressed as RNA. They will not be translated into protein. For identification of such RNA genes, special methods are required to identify since these do not contain a coding region. Such methods are generally based on homology searches because these RNA sequences are highly conserved during evolution. And whatever the algorithms that are developed for finding out these potential RNA genes, they look for the presence of sequences that have got the potential to form stem loop structures or hairpin structures, which involves a lot of base pairing, because these RNA sequences, they produce very stable tertiary or secondary structures. One such algorithm available for the prediction of these RNA genes is tRNA-scan-Se. So that's how the RNA genes are predicted by homology searches, and that looks for the presence of sequences that have got the potential to form hairpin or stem loop structures, which is the very stable conformation of the RNA sequences. Any prediction methods, any algorithms we discuss, at the end we will look at the software which is available to carry out that particular process or procedure. The gene prediction software available are NCBI ORF Finder, Gene Finder, GRAIL, Genie, GenScan. These are the different programs available for gene prediction software. In your practical class in the next semester, we will be working with NCBI ORF Finder for the identification of ORFs and GenScan. These two methods we will work with. One more thing I would just like to mention. For ORF identification, we can also use NepCutter, which we have discussed in the previous class. Though the NepCutter is the objective of NepCutter program is the restriction mapping, it also helps in identifying the ORFs, that we have also seen with one example in the previous class. Now, in this class, before I conclude, let's just look how to work with this NCBI ORF Finder, the program which is used for ORF identification, by which that will help us in predicting the genes from the given DNA sequences. So this is just the screenshot I have taken from the program. This is how the ORF Finder web page looks like, and there is a window space provided in which you can give the input sequence for which you want to identify the ORFs, thereby the prediction of genes. Here one input sequence is pasted in FASTA format. The other parameters that can be set in this ORF Finder program is, this is called NCBI ORF Finder because it is developed by NCBI. So once you give the input sequence here in FASTA format, these are the other parameters that can be set in the program. The minimal ORF length can be defined. By default, it is 75 nucleotide. that can be left as it is. Genetic code to be followed in identification of ORF is standard genetic code. And if you have any other specifications to be followed in the search, if you want to say ATG and alternative initiation codons also to be used, you can go for this option. And any sense codon to be opted, you can go for this option. And you can ignore the nested ORFs. If you leave it, it will not ignore the nested ORFs. Once you define all these parameters and give the input sequence, you can submit the program for execution. So the result will be appearing something like this. These are all the screenshots I have taken from the program with one example. So the output of the ORF finder will be, this is the frame viewer. You can look at the shaded regions of ORFs. If you see here, the total number of ORFs found in the given sequence is 10 ORFs using the genetic code 1, that means standard genetic code, and the start codon used for identifying ORF is ATG only. So all the 10 ORFs that are found in the given DNA sequence are listed here. You can scroll down and see all the 10 ORFs, from which strand it is given, whether it is from plus strand or minus strand. From plus strand, obviously there are 3 reading frames, and from minus strand there are again 3 reading frames. From which translation frame it has been identified, that is also mentioned here. From the first translation frame, 1 ORF is identified. From second, 2 ORFs are identified. From third, there is 1, and from the first, again ORFs are there. So likewise, 10 different ORFs were identified. If you just click on one particular ORF, the sequence which is predicted, the ORF 1, the predicted protein sequence will be displayed here. And there is also one option, if you want to look at the 6 reading frames or 6 frame translation sequences, that can also be visualized. If you just click on it, you would be able to see the all the 6 translational reading frames, 6 frame translation for the entire sequence. As I told you, if you read from the first base of the sequence, that will give you the first reading frame, second base of the sequence, second reading frame, third base of the sequence, third reading frame. Likewise for the one strand, 3 reading frames, and the other strand, another 3 reading frames. Likewise 6 translational reading frames, in which you would be looking for the identification of long ORFs that will indicate the, that will in turn help us in identifying the genes from the genome sequences. So this is one example. I just would like to show you how the ORF finder works in identifying the ORFs. Other programs of gene prediction methods we will see in the practical class, which we will be doing in the next semester. So this class basically explains the gene prediction methods from the genome sequences. 3 important methods in the beginning we discussed: signal sensor, content sensing, and homology searches. In addition, we can also incorporate intron and exon characteristic features, especially in case of eukaryotic genes. And ORF identification also helps in identifying the genes. And in case of RNA genes, homology search is the method used, because these sequences are highly conserved in evolution. So the algorithms, whatever developed, they look for the presence of sequences that can form the hairpin or stem loop structures. Hope this class is clear for you. Gene prediction methods had been asked for 15 marks once. So this is also important. There is nothing unimportant from the syllabus. From all the topics, questions can come. So this will be the constant. But I'll just give you the information how these topics are asked in several university examinations. So you will get one idea in which direction to prepare for the exam. So this is what wanted to discuss about gene prediction methods. Thank you very much. Attend all of you the class and report your attendance.